Media.
Welcome back to Behind the Bastards, a podcast about the very worst people in all of history. This week, we're on part 2 of our episodes on the recently and lamentably departed Mark Fuhrman, who, now that we've gotten to know, the mood has turned somber here in the Behind the Bastards studio because Sophie and our guest for today, Joe Kasabian, are all overwhelmed with grief at the titan that we've lost, that is no longer with us. The great mind, the great heart, the great law enforcement officer, Mark Fuhrman. I don't know. It almost feels pointless to go on. Why are we here?
I'm really happy, though, that in death, that he can be, the United States' newest gender-neutral bathroom.
That's right. Yeah, find out where they put him. Somewhere in Idaho.
Yeah.
The only gender-neutral bathroom in Idaho.
Just if you see a grave in Idaho, piss on it, it might be Mark Fuhrman. It might not be.
No way to know.
You got to roll those dice.
Somehow our hearts will go on and on and on. Let's talk about this shit, Robert. Talk about the OJ trial. I'm excited.
Yeah, let's talk about, we love the OJ trial.
We
Again,
do.
folks, if you want to watch the documentary starring Ross from Friends as Robert Kardashian, we'll wait for you. But I can replicate the best parts. Just imagine Ross from Friends saying juice over and over again, and you pretty much got the important bits,
I'm really happy that Ross from Friends' career could go so well. Yeah. He ends up doing brown face to play an Armenian guy because Serge from System of a Down wouldn't answer his phone.
I do think what is really funny to me about that is they had Cuba play OJ, Cuba Gooding Jr., and it's a weird case of like the casting doing a lot of the acting, because I can believe that OJ's evil because Cuba Gooding Jr. is really evil.
That's true.
It was a very
true.
fascinating, oh wow, a lot of the lifting's just being done by I know who Cuba Gooding Jr. is.
Yeah. They nailed it on that one. They just had no idea.
Great idea. Yeah.
This is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed Human.
This is Jana Kramer from Wind Down with Jana Kramer. So why do they call it a dishwasher? Well, don't worry. It's not a trick question or anything. It's just because it washes dishes. If the filter and the dishwasher itself are dirty, those dishes aren't actually getting clean. That's why you need Cascade Platinum Plus. Powered by 2 times the cleaning power of Dawn, Cascade Platinum Plus doesn't just remove 100% of grease and residue from dishes. It cleans your dishwasher and filter too. So you get clean dishes and a dishwasher that keeps washing. Just scrape, load, and done. Find Cascade Platinum Plus at your local retailer. Cascade is a proud sponsor of the Elton John Impact Awards, honoring those who have helped shape a more inclusive and compassionate world with their artistry, advocacy, and unwavering commitment to equality. Cascade would like to take this opportunity to congratulate all of this year's deserving honorees. Don't miss the Elton John Impact Awards podcast, available on June 1st on the iHeartRadio app and everywhere podcasts are heard.
Mom, can I have Lingo Kids? Dad, Lingo Kids, please!
When did we become the Lingo Kids house?
No idea. Last week it was dinosaurs. This week it's...
Lingo Kids!
Why Lingo Kids?
Because it's the best thing ever. We can play games with astronauts, wild animals, and superheroes.
With more than 4,000 interactive games, songs, and shows, Lingo Kids is the #1 entertainment platform for young kids.
So, no dinosaurs?
And dinosaurs! Lingo Kids!
Everything kids love. Download it for free.
Do you want to find a stress-free way to buy your next car? Start at CarMax and shop your way. And if you want to browse with confidence, get pre-qualified online with no impact on your credit score and shop cars within your budget. From luxury cars to family rides, CarMax has options for almost every price range, including more than 25,000 cars priced under $25,000. So, hey, want to get started? Just head to CarMax.com for details and get pre-qualified today. Want to drive? CarMax.
You're listening to a podcast, so you're doing something else too, like maybe scrolling home listings on Redfin, saving places you like without thinking you'll get them, because that's what house hunting has become. But Redfin isn't built for endless browsing. It's built to help you find and own a home. Redfin agents close twice as many deals as other agents, which means when you find a place you love, you've got a real shot at getting it. Redfin helps turn saved listings into real addresses. Get started at redfin.com. Own the dream.
So let's talk about Mark Fuhrman. By the early 1990s, Mark Fuhrman was a veteran LAPD detective who seems to have been somewhat popular and influential among, like, at least his clique in the department. Mark was known for making racist and sexist jokes, and for he's got a hobby. What kind of hobby? Do you think a guy who, like, joined the Marines because he, like, idolized violence and never got over not getting to go to war and then became a cop? What do you think, like, one of his hobbies is? What do you think he collects?
Shit. Stamps? I'm gonna go stamps.
No, it's military memorabilia. It's
God,
all
he owns
military
Nazi
uniforms
memorabilia.
and awards.
I was going coins. I was going coins.
I know these guys. I fucking know these guys. I am a historian by trade, and every time you meet a guy, every fucking time,
oh,
I collect some military memorabilia. I'm like, it's Nazi shit, isn't it? It's always Nazi shit.
And they'll always tell you, like, you don't even have to come on to them because they're so defensive. And that's true with Mark. Because I'd read like 2 articles that had said that, he got into, like, collecting, like, old military uniforms and awards. And so I'd wondered, but that's all they said. Like, they didn't, like, say anything, like, accuse anything. But in his own book, when Mark's saying, and like, yeah, I liked collecting old military stuff, quote, some of which happened to be German. And I was like, no one even said that, Mark. No one was even asking. And you just brought it up because you knew. Because, like, you knew what we knew, and you had to confirm it for us. That's funny to me.
That's a direct A to B. Like, no cop is collecting, like, you know what? I got really into the Imperial Japanese Navy, which, to be fair, is not that much of a better of a choice.
Not
but, like,
better.
still, like, they're going to one thing specifically.
There's not an LAPD detective who's like, I'm just really interested, actually, in, like, the differences between the Austro-Hungarian military proper and then, like, the actual, like, Hungarian military and the ways in which these kind of, like, differing like forces within the same state clashed. And I like to collect items that sort of embody that clash. And, like, no, it's always just Nazi shit.
No, you misunderstand me, sir. I am simply a enthusiast of the Hanved Militaria, is all.
Sure, buddy.
Just me. I'm the only one in the world.
Yeah. So one of his favorite cartoons, because he loves to collect political cartoons, like newspaper cartoons. He's a big cartoon guy, and he has, like, a bunch of them displayed at his desk at any point in time. This is relevant because when the OJ Simpson case blows up and whether or not Mark Fuhrman's a racist becomes an important matter for reasons we'll discuss later, people are like, he always had a swastika at his desk. Like a cartoon swastika, like, displayed prominently, like, taped and, like, displayed or something up, like, pasted up at his workplace.
Oh my God.
And people thought that was weird. And so in his autobiography, Mark had to be like, that's bullshit. I didn't have a drawing of a swastika. I mean, yes, there was a swastika in a drawing, but it was from a political cartoon by an artist called Paul Conrad. And the cartoon was like a swastika rising up out of the ashes of the recently collapsed Berlin Wall. I haven't actually been able to find this cartoon, but this is Fuhrman's explanation for what Conrad was going for with the cartoon. Conrad was asking whether we were making a mistake by allowing a country with the power and history of Germany to be reunified. So that's why Fuhrman was like, and that's why I liked the cartoon, I thought it was asking a poignant question, and this is obviously what it meant. And that's why there was a swastika at my desk. And
I don't buy it.
I don't buy it, and also that's not what the cartoon was about. Again, because Google's so fucked up, I didn't find that cartoon, but I did find an article that interviewed Paul Conrad about that cartoon because it came up during the Simpson trial. And the New York Times reached out to Paul Conrad and asked for comment, and Paul gave a very different explanation for what that comic meant. So again, Mark is like, obviously it means that, maybe reunifying Germany is a mistake because of the Nazis. Here's why Paul said he made that comic. Following the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989, Spanish, Italian, and other European workers were sent back to their home countries to create jobs for the East Germans. Out of this came the rising up of the neo-Nazis, the skinheads, or however you wish to refer to them. My statement was in protest and anger that the downing of the wall, hopefully producing freedom for all of Germany, had in fact given rise to the tortured thinking of the past. That's not the same. That's not the same
at all.
statement. Yeah, he is talking about like the visible rise of the skinheads and how that like upset him and stuff. And Mark is being like, no, when the wall fell, people were just worried the Nazis were coming back. And there's just a difference between those two things. I guess it doesn't matter much in the context of the court case, but it's interesting to me.
And think of the mental pathways that lead a sergeant, I guess, in the LAPD to look at that and be like, this is something that needs to be on my desk because it says something so poignant and powerful about the reunification of Germany.
Yeah. I don't know.
Nobody believes
kind
you.
of weird, Mark. Kind of weird. So probably the thing that Mark's peers at the station knew best about him is that he had some issues with women. He'd lied about much of what he told that journalist, McKinney, and the tapes that we talked about last episode. But Men Against Women, the group that, like he talked about founding, was a real organization within the LAPD that has been, like, independently reported on. Now, it was never an officially recognized group, obviously, but it did appeal to a large number of male officers. And there's internal documentation that not only did the department brass know that Men Against Women existed, but that they knew Fuhrman was the ringleader behind starting it. So the group began with Mark and several other older male cops complaining about split tails, which was a cop slur for female cops. And I don't know when it started. Mark will usually say like 85, which is like right when he got back onto patrol, which is weird that he's got like the social clout that he's like starting this group. But maybe this is him distracting from his own disgrace by like trying to rally everyone to attack the lady cops. I don't know. Prior to 1997, the only evidence that this group existed was those taped interviews of Mark Fuhrman, and initially Mark claimed that these had been lies, blustered to feel cool. But after the OJ Simpson case, the LAPD conducted an investigation into the tapes and into, sexism and racism within the LAPD, and they came to some shocking conclusions about the group Men Against Women. Per an LA Times summary of that investigation, members of the group believed there was no place for women in the LAPD. Members would act aloof to female officers, ignore them, and try to get them into trouble during their probationary periods after joining the department. In some cases, the actions of the group inhibited some women from safely and effectively performing their duties and created fear in many women that these male officers would not provide backup if they requested it in the field, the report said. Further, there was evidence that the Men Against Women officers would ostracize male officers who did not support their boycott against female officers.
That's kind of what I would expect. It's the same thing of like whenever we talk about black or Latino cops, be like, no, Mark Fuhrman isn't a racist. It's like, think of the blowback that they would get if they didn't say that. You know what I mean? Like, this is how these institutions work. Even I'm sure there's a fair amount of dudes who came forward and said, no, Mark Fuhrman's a stand-up dude that had been called slurs by him or been treated like shit.
But they were
Same
like,
with
look,
this.
Then Blue Line. Yeah. And that's why because they bring in a woman cop who had nice things to say about him. And they're like, no, I always trusted him. And the fact of the matter is, like, this is a guy who inside the LAPD was known and had been repeatedly investigated for, like, being a sexist asshole. And the fact that nobody did anything about it is proof of the fact that it wasn't weird. Right?
Right.
Like, it wasn't that
Same with
weird,
him, casually saying the N-word all the time.
Yeah, constantly. Yeah. So that 97 report revealed that Men Against Women, the existence of this group founded in the mid-'80s, was exposed to the top brass, to like the people running the department in 1986 when they held it, like the LAPD holds a closed investigation. So they're investigating this because women have complained about this group within the department, but they're not like telling anyone, and they're not going to publish the results of the investigation because that might
because they already know how it's going to
inform people. Yeah, exactly. After this closed investigation, the department chose to take no action and continued their investigation into why women were being harassed in their department for almost a decade. So there's a wider investigation like, why are women in the LAPD unhappy? And there's also an investigation into the group Men Against Women. And the department's like, well, there's nothing to do there, but it's going to take at least another 10 years to find out why lady cops are unhappy. No way to know. Impossible.
Certainly these two things are not connected.
So investigators would later conclude that a major reason that all of this went down was that most police supervisors did not consider female officers being harassed as a problem, right? This isn't an issue. And often these superiors are members of Men Against Women themselves. Quote from the report, supervisors had such close relationships with the officers who were harassing the women that it made it difficult for the women to lodge complaints, the report said. In some cases, the supervisors worked with or for subordinate male officers on off-duty business ventures. Fuhrman's supervisors not only allowed him to act out his prejudices, but they accommodated him by allowing him to select his partners and other separatist working conditions, the report said. So again, Mark is racist. This group is racist. His supervisors support it. It's widely popular with a lot of men who react to Mark forming this male supremacist group by letting him avoid working with women. Like, the department isn't just allowing this, they're actually modifying their rules in order to accommodate Mark and other people like him.
Yeah, Mark won.
I love the LAPD. Yeah. Well, for now, Mark won. It's not going to be a lasting victory, Joe, as we'll talk about. So here's where I got to do something, though. And I got to say something I don't normally say on this show, which is that I don't know if Mark is as responsible for this group as this report makes it sound. Because Mark would claim to have founded the group, and the report says he founded the group. And I don't know that I doubt that in particular. I just really don't want that to lead you to think that Mark is the ringleader here, because this makes their angle is Mark is manipulating everyone. Everyone falls into line around Mark, as opposed to I think Mark is servicing a need and desire by his peers. And that's why they accommodate him, because he's giving them what they wanted, right? And I think that's an important caveat. So that 97 report doesn't make the LAPD look good, but again, it does kind of portray Mark specifically as a guy whose unique toxicity warped the environment around him. In fact, as much as this report portrays Fuhrman as a deeply poisonous influence, the same year it was released, 1997, Mark puts out his own book, Murder in Brentwood, which I've quoted from a few times. And in that book, he includes a letter that LAPD Chief Daryl Gates sent his mom in 1995 during the OJ Simpson trial. And here's a line from that letter. I, too, am very proud of Mark, and I know he has done his job proudly and properly and very effectively, perhaps too effectively for the OJ defense lawyers. And so if Mark is this uniquely toxic individual who warped the environment around him, why is the police chief saying he's a great detective who did his job perfectly? Why is everyone accommodating and working with him? Again, don't trust that format. You know?
Yeah, I think there could be a few things to it, like you said. It's the thin blue line at work where he can be on video or tape, like he is, routinely saying slurs, admitting to crimes that he then says he was bullshitting about. But every cop's going to line up and be like, no, he's perfect. Yep. He's our perfect little boy. It doesn't matter what the evidence says.
Yep.
So I think there's a little bit of that. A little bit of him being, a misogynistic, racist piece of shit, and a little bit of him servicing an institutional need for someone to take the reins to lead the misogynistic piece of shit club.
Yeah, exactly. And someone I can see also why his bosses might have wanted someone deniable to lead the harassing club that makes women want to quit the job. They want less women cops too. They like it being there because it makes them want to leave, but they don't want to get in trouble. They don't want that stank on them, Let Mark do it.
The chief of police can't be doing that shit. He has actual work to do, hypothetically.
Let Mark do it. Yeah. So that LAPD report concluded, the type of sexual harassment used in West Los Angeles was about power, pure and simple. In short order, Fuhrman exerted that power over the younger, less experienced, and therefore more vulnerable female officers. Fuhrman's power grew every time he made an unchallenged sexist comment in roll call, every time he blatantly ignored a female officer, every time he resolved a field situation for a female officer, and every time his behavior was reinforced by his supervisors, such as deploying him with only male partners. As his power rose, his ability to influence the peer group grew until it was Fuhrman who set the tone for the watch, not the supervisors. And
shit.
Is that because he was just so powerful? Or is that because the supervisors, again, figured it's better to let Fuhrman take the heat for doing these things that we want done, but I don't want to be responsible for doing? That's my contention.
I think it's probably both. I think the supervisors, the higher ranking people want him in those positions to be the fall guy, but also kind of like we've already said, he's a bit of a charismatic dude. People do like him, and he isn't altogether terrible at his job of being an LAPD
of
piece
being
of
an
shit.
LAPD officer. Yeah,
So
exactly.
I think the two things are kind of, it's like a remora on a shark. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the one leads to the other, one feeds the other. Like the supervisors want him to do this, but at the same time, the supervisors wouldn't pick him unless he was popular enough to pull it off.
Yeah, exactly. Unless like he was really liked and respected widely. Which is, something you just have to realize as you go through this. And the other thing you have to realize is that life is completely meaningless and just absolutely devoid of joy or light without the sponsors of this podcast and the many products and services that they provide.
Many people are saying this.
This is Jenny Garth from I Choose Me with Jenny Garth. History is full of surprising little details. And laundry? Turns out it's got its own fascinating story too, because not all detergents are created equal. Tide liquid laundry detergent isn't just clean, it's boosted clean for cleaner, whiter, brighter, and fresher results compared to Tide Simply. And those stubborn stains that always seem to show up at the worst times? Tide tackles 100% of common stains for every load, every time. Now, if grease is your nemesis, think food spills, cooking splatters, Tide's got 10 times grease-fighting ingredients compared to bargain brands. And it works in a machine, in any water condition, on all your machine washable fabrics. It's no wonder Tide was America's #1 detergent in sales last year. So if it's got to be clean and it's got to be fresh, it's got to be Tide. Shop now at your local retailer. Tide is a proud sponsor of the Elton John Impact Awards, honoring those who have helped shape a more inclusive and compassionate world with their artistry, advocacy, and unwavering commitment to equality. You won't want to miss the Elton John Impact Awards podcast, available on June 1st on the iHeartRadio app and everywhere podcasts are heard.
Mom, can I have Lingo Kids? Dad, Lingo Kids, please!
When did we become the Lingo Kids house?
No idea. Last week it was dinosaurs. This week it's...
Lingo Kids!
Why Lingo Kids?
Because it's the best thing ever. We can play games with astronauts, wild animals, and superheroes.
With more than 4,000 interactive games, songs, and shows, Lingo Kids is the #1 entertainment platform for young kids.
So, no dinosaurs?
And dinosaurs. Lingo Kids!
Everything kids love. Download it for free.
This January, Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship takes over the ocean. The inaugural Bruise Cruise sails from Miami to the Bahamas aboard the Norwegian Jewel. 3 straight days with pool deck bare knuckle fights in the Caribbean, massive parties, beach events, DJs, cigars, tequila tastings, and non-stop action. The lineup reveals coming soon. Cabins are disappearing fast, and the prices won't stay this low. Reserve your spot with just $200 down at BKFSEA.com.
You ever get the feeling the city walls closing in, the concrete jungle suffocating your soul? You crave wide open spaces, the chance to connect with nature, maybe chase some elk, fish a private stream. Well, listen up. There's a whole world out there, and finding your own piece of it just got easier. Head over to land.com. They've got ranches, forest, mountains, you name it. Search by acreage, location, the kind of hunting or fishing you dream of. Land.com. It's where the adventure begins.
And we're back. Thank God life matters again. Without ads, what do we have? Nothing. That's it. That's the only reason to be. That and hearing about Mark Fuhrman. I don't know.
That's very important to me, personally. I love hearing about dead cops.
Yeah, exactly. So as good a case as all of this makes, especially that LAPD report makes for Mark being a bastard, again, I don't buy the centrality of just him quite as much as they want to put it out, right? Because he's not just a poisonous worm. He's a worm who's been poisoned by the other, I don't know, sick worms in the apple, or this analogy was a mistake. Whatever. I just want to highlight, because after the OJ trial, the LAPD has a strong vested interest in cutting Fuhrman off like a tumor, they're going to blame a lot of their culture problems on him, as many of them as possible. And that's not really accurate or fair. He's a symptom, he's not the cause. Environmental audits performed on the LAPD in the 1990s uncovered systemic gender bias issues, not just in West LA, but across the entire department. Penny Harrington of the National Center for Women in Policing said this at the time: "Widespread sexual harassment and intimidation, and threats against women on the force remain a serious problem on the LAPD, a problem made worse by the apparent complicity of the top command. So during the mid-1980s, Men Against Women was said by Fuhrman to have had 145 members in 5 out of 18 of the department's police divisions. So there's 145 cops in the He Men Woman Haters Club of the LAPD in like 87. And maybe he's lying. I don't know what the real numbers were. I don't even know if they had like a roll call or whatever.
I can't imagine they did. Yeah.
And it's hard for me to tell because he's just getting back to patrol duty in the mid 80s. I don't know how much of this he's judging up. I'll read a quote from the Christian Science Monitor kind of summarizing his claims about how this group worked and like what they did. Because as I said, they're holding trials. They have like tribunals for male officers who were like nice to girls. Like it's the saddest fucking. I'm just going to read this quote from the
God,
CSM.
These guys are fucking pathetic.
He also reveals that it held mock trials of male officers who were accused of fraternizing with women. Such tribunals often occurred after midnight in parking lots where participants would drink beer and sentence fellow officers to silent treatment and other means of ostracization. So I wanted to know.
Pathetic.
It's so sad. And it's so sad that I had to know more. I want to know more about these fucking tribunals. And so, thankfully, it turns out that back in 1997, the New York Daily News got access to some unreleased cut parts of the tapes that referenced these tribunals. And they posted or published an article including quotes from that. And so, I'm going to quote from that article. This is explaining what these looked like. And by God, you're going to be... What would you guess is the aesthetic inspiration for these nighttime trials of cops who are nice to girls?
Frat?
No.
Pledging
Oh, it's
of
way
some
worse.
kind?
Way worse, Joe. Okay, great. I'm going to quote from that article. On a 1988 tape, Fuhrman described tribunals as a cross between criminal trials and Ku Klux Klan rallies, where members would drink beer and conduct a mock trial.
Robert.
Again, he compares it to a KKK rally.
These losers.
Here's Mark, standing around in a dark parking lot of a baseball diamond at 3:30 in the morning, and I put my hood on, and I am calling a tribunal, and we get in a circle with Tony standing in the middle. Okay, the charges are as follows. You were seen having a coffee with one of the enemy, Fuhrman said. Male officers found guilty of fraternizing with females were sentenced to punishments like a week of silent treatment or the back, where other male officers would turn their backs on the offender. Like, my God. First
this
off,
shit is
your
so
Klan
sad.
rally, your anti-girl Klan, and you got a hood? What?
He brought his own hood to work. I thought the LAPD issued those with your gun.
No, that's the sheriff's department.
That's
you got to
fair
buy
enough,
your
my
own
bad.
hood in the LAPD.
Yeah, budget cuts are a motherfucker.
BYOH, everybody knows that. Yeah. That's that. After Biden cut the budget, they had to trim those. So
this is what they meant by defund the police.
Yeah, exactly. Many of the claims Mark made in those interviews with McKinney focused around what he would call kill parties. These were, if you believe Mark, both parties where cops celebrated and praised other officers who'd killed citizens, and a term for times when officers might just kill someone for fun during a call. Like they show up and there's a guy that they don't like or think is an asshole, and they kill him so that they can have a kill party. Like he's kind of claiming that sometimes we just murder people that we either know are bad or don't like for fun and hold parties celebrating it. And he brought this up in part to point out that women were not invited to Ma's kill parties. When the Men Against Women guys would hold a kill party, they didn't invite any of the girls to their cool kill parties.
I believe him because we know this happens today with the LAPD and the LASD.
Yeah. I don't
these
doubt
things
it.
are confirmed,
Stuff like this is happening. I don't know if they call them this, but they're happening.
They probably have an even more horrible name, and the badge bending thing as well. All this shit still happens.
Yeah, variants of it at least. So for his part, Mark always denied that Men Against Women was anything more than, quote, a tongue-in-cheek, beer-drinking joke used by officers to blow up steam, make us laugh, and try to forget the impossible job we had in front of us. Being a cop's so hard, sometimes you gotta dress up like a Klansman to hold trials for having coffee with a girl.
In the parking lot outside of work.
Did he just do the
At 3:30 in the morning?
The 1980s version of locker room talk? Is that what just happened?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Pretty much.
Yep.
Cool
just
guy.
blowing off steam because cell
Blowing
phones
off
hadn't been
steam.
invented yet, so he
That's
couldn't
right.
just like sit around playing Candy Crush all day.
That's right. Or deep fake porning his coworkers,
Yeah.
which is the kind of guy Mark would have been in 2026.
Yeah.
So,
100%.
He claims that after that investigation in the mid-1980s, Internal Affairs investigated him but found no evidence of discrimination, just a few bad jokes. On the tape and
Once
in his
again,
book.
falling back to calling them jokes, man.
Yeah,
This shit's
thanks,
old as
IA.
hell.
Yeah,
So
the Klan
boring.
rallies were just a bit.
They were ironic, Robert. It's fine.
Yeah, they were joke comedy Klan rallies. That's what the 3K stand for, the comedy Klan rally. Yeah.
I think that's what Joe Rogan's naming his new club.
Yeah. So on the tape and in the book, Fuhrman repeatedly blamed Police Captain Margaret York for a lot of his issues. He hates this lady, Margaret York. He says that she bullied him over Ma and over a bunch of other stuff. And that when she arrived in the West LA department, quote, she immediately singled me out and tried to make my life miserable. And he accused, I think, of sleeping to the top. He says a lot of awful stuff about this lady. And it's going to be really funny later on. Because of who she's married to.
Wait.
But we'll talk about that in a second. So McKinney would later use what she'd gotten from Mark to write a screenplay called Men Against Women about female cops dealing with bigotry in the LAPD, basically. It gets optioned for $1,000 by John Flynn, but it's never turned into a movie, tragically. I don't know that it was a good screenplay. I haven't had a chance to read it yet. After her last talk with Mark in 1993, that's the last of her recorded interviews with him, she filed them away until about a year or so later, she saw something crazy on the news. And this is what leads us to the OJ Simpson trial, right? Now we're finally into the story everybody knows Mark for. So by the time of the murders in 1994, Mark had already been to OJ's Rockingham estate in Brentwood once before in the mid-1980s. I think it was 85 or 86, because there'd been a domestic dispute between OJ and Nicole, right? And so Mark had shown up once and he'd seen, a pretty bad situation, right? OJ was an abusive guy. This is not like a fun, he had reason to not like OJ Simpson, going into this previously. In 1992, he had been deployed on the streets during the unrest and rioting over the Rodney King beating and its aftermath when the cops who beat Rodney King got off, right? So he's there for the LA riots. Mark doesn't write much about this other than to say that he was on the streets at the time. But the fact that the LA riots had happened 2 years earlier is really relevant to everything that happens with OJ. And I know everyone who grew up at the time knows it, but
Sure.
That's a big fear running through this is that if he's convicted, is there going to be another massive uprising because LA had just boiled over like that? And people were really angry again about the police and police misconduct because of everything that everything I've told you about Mark comes out during this case, right? So that's all also in the mix here too, I'm not going to linger crazy long on the details of the trial itself because that's been litigated everywhere in the world. I'm just going to talk about Mark's role in it. On the night of June 12th, 1994, Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman were brutally murdered. And we all know it was OJ, right? Nobody's ever posited any other realistic thing. OJ wrote a book called If I Did It afterwards. I don't think we don't need to hop around here. So after doing it, OJ goes to the airport and he flies to Chicago, right? And the bodies are discovered at around 12:10 a.m. on the 13th. Detective Mark Fuhrman arrives at OJ Simpson's house because, once they know this has happened, they're obviously going to go to OJ's place. Fuhrman had been there before, so he and his partner drive to the Rockingham estate at around 5 a.m. And he finds an apparent blood stain on Simpson's Bronco parked outside. Now, from this point forward, things proceed fairly normally for a while. There's an investigation that commences, and Mark is not the main detective on it, but he's playing a role. He's at OJ's house. He's looking for evidence, and he is the guy who first locates the bloody glove, right? That's going to be this major thing in the case. He sees it behind the Simpson home, right? And he finds it, but he does not pick it up, and this is important, and he doesn't introduce it into evidence. So remember that for later, but he does find it, right? And because he finds it, once this goes to trial, the prosecutors decide to put Mark on the stand to walk everyone through when he found the glove, because this is an important piece of evidence that connects OJ to the murder, right? And so they need Mark to talk about it. And it just so happens that when Mark goes on the stand the first time to talk about having found this glove, there's another lawyer watching on TV, because this is a big deal from the beginning. Obviously, OJ goes on the run briefly, and like that's all filmed. So by the time this goes to trial, public interest is as a fever pitch. And so while Mark is talking about finding this glove on the stand, a lawyer named Robert Deutsch is watching the evening news, right? And he sees Mark and he tells his wife, "That's the guy who found the bloody glove?" And his wife is like, "Yeah." And I'm going to quote now from a New York Times article from 1996. Mr. Deutsch happened to be familiar with the detective from a case in which police officers shot a black robbery suspect and then, Mr. Deutsch believes, planted evidence against him. After the newscast, Mr. Deutsch put in a call to Robert L. Shapiro on the Simpson legal team. He reported that the detective had once applied for a stress disability pension and had told psychiatrists that he had tortured suspects and hated N-words. So this other lawyer who's been involved in a case with Fuhrman where a black man was like abused, right? Has, because of everything that happened to that case, found out about Fuhrman's backstory because it's public and it came out during that other case. And he calls Simpson's defense attorney, one of them, and he's like, "Hey, I know something really important, because the glove is the most important piece of physical evidence that the prosecutors have. And if you can say, well, this is the guy who found it, and he's a racist who planted evidence and talked about planting evidence, you can get the whole thing thrown out, right?"
Yeah. That's a great way to sprinkle in reasonable doubt.
Yeah, and Shapiro, as soon as this guy calls Shapiro and says, "I know this guy is a racist who talked about framing black men," Shapiro's like, "Ding, ding, fucking ding, baby." Like, say less, you know? I know how I'm earning my salary, right?
Fuck yeah. I mean, that's like getting a gift on a platter.
Oh, God, yeah. So the Juice's legal team were looking for absolutely any angle that they could play to keep their client from spending the rest of his life behind bars. And given the recent LA riots and the filmed brutal beating of Rodney King, which the officers responsible for had gotten off for committing, many Angelenos were not only willing to believe that a bad cop had set OJ up, they didn't even need to be convinced of that to believe it, right? Because the bloody glove was bad for Simpson, anything that impugned it as evidence was a priority, which meant Mark Fuhrman was a priority. And once they start digging into past the stuff that Deutsch has told them, they found plenty of valid reasons to believe that, like, oh, this guy really might have set OJ up, right? Like, it's a believable case, at least. And the most damning thing they find during this process of digging up all the dirt they can on Mark Fuhrman is these tapes. Right. And basically someone who knows McKinney informs Shapiro, "Hey, there's a lady who was like interviewing this guy and he said some crazy shit. And I think he said the N-word a bunch." Because by this point, Mark has said on stage under testimony, "Oh, I never said the N-word. Like, not in the last 10 years have I used that."
It's so weird that he knows, like, "Oh, well, I haven't said it in like 10 years. Like, but you did."
Yeah, he's specifying 10 years. Yeah.
You remember this happening specifically 10 years ago. That's a really weird thing to remember.
Yeah. And so it becomes really important to be able to prove that that's a lie, and the tapes will prove it's a lie. So, right, once Shapiro finds out these exist, he's going to move heaven and earth to get them introduced into evidence. And part of that is going to be making sure that the media finds out that there's tapes, right, and starts getting clips of the tapes, because that creates buzz and brings up news. And soon there are news articles quoting segments of these tapes, of these clips. Some get leaked by the defense team after they get access to the tapes. And you know, it's bad stuff. You know, I quoted earlier a brief summary, but other things in those tapes, Fuhrman admits to brutality, to police, to beating people. He admits to sexually harassing female colleagues and civilian women. He repeatedly uses the N-word. Portions of the tapes are ultimately admitted into evidence and shown to the jury. Because one of Mark's favorite stories to tell McKinney were all the ways that, like, cops planted evidence on people, and that's incredibly relevant, right? Yeah. Like, and it's, again, this is often framed as like, oh, the shitty media and oh, these tapes never should have been introduced. No, if the detective on a case who found a key piece of evidence has 13 hours of talking about how much he loves framing black guys by planting evidence, that's actually super relevant. Even if he's lying, that's super relevant. I'm sorry, it just is.
I call this Destroy My Testimony mixtape.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're going to play a clip from the Destroy My Testimony mixtape. This is a clip I found from the Kyra Phillips show on CNN that was part of a recent special on the Fuhrman tapes that played some bits that had not been previously revealed. I'm going to play you a clip that just tosses out like 3 of these quotes so you can kind of hear what he sounded like and get like an idea of sort of the highlights. This is like a worst of the Fuhrman tapes.
Vulgar.
And Weinstein said a little 5-foot Jew, called her the wandering Jew. The plow boy said a big nose.
Sexist.
How do you arrest a violent suspect? I yell out, have a man do it.
Disturbing.
You've got to be a borderline sociopath. You've got to be violent.
Cool. So that's the kind of shit he's saying, right? I didn't include him saying the N-word repeatedly, but he does, you know? And the LA would claim then and after that most of these allegations had no real world backing. He was just lying. There's no evidence of it. And, you know, he was lying a lot, but that also makes it impossible to trust Mark Fuhrman. You know, even if he never planted evidence on anyone, the fact that he has 13 hours of pretending it does impugn his reliability.
I would say so.
Yeah.
Best case scenario, he is just a liar.
Yeah. Yeah. So many legal experts agree that the Fuhrman tapes in specific and Mark's whole existence as a detective and involvement with the glove may well be why OJ walked away a free man. It didn't help that he'd repeatedly shit-talked Captain York on the tapes. I mentioned this earlier. He talks a lot. She slept her way to the top. She's always mean to me. The judge on the OJ Simpson case is a guy, Judge Ito. Captain York was his wife.
Oh my God.
Wow.
I mean, it does bring up, I mean, as funny as it is.
Poor Lance.
At a certain point, should have the judge, like, recused himself from the situation?
There was a big debate, and I think it was just because things had gone, like, they didn't want to deal with that nightmare. But no, that was a major topic of discussion. Like, that had to be ruled on. Another judge had to come in and say it's okay. Like, I don't think this we'll cut some stuff out, but I don't think this will like make it be an issue. But no, they did have to get a ruling on that. And this is one of the reasons why everyone's so pissed at Mark is because like this trial's already hell, already incredibly expensive, already a fucking circus. And then now we have to stop it to figure out if we've got to find a new judge because you fucking shit talked his wife a bunch on tapes to a journalist, you idiot. Like,
what are the fucking odds too, man? Like Fuhrman is
so funny.
Is a great example of a dipshit just tripping over his own feet.
Constantly.
Like statistically, almost impossible ways.
He trips over his own dick so hard the whole LAPD fell. Like,
yeah. Like, of all the judges, of all the people in the LAPD, he manages to go on tape for hours shit-talking the wife of the guy that's going to destroy him.
It's amazing. It's so funny.
It's fucking great.
So the stupidest part of all this is Mark never even needed to be involved in the OJ trial in the first place. There was no good reason for him to have been on under oath at all. Yes, he had found the glove, but that just means he spotted it with his eyes and he pointed it out to the other detectives, but he never touched it. It was another detective who introduced it into the chain of custody, and you could have just had that guy testify, right? The DA's office never needed to call on Mark. I've read reporting that says prosecutors did because they interviewed him and they found him impressive and trustworthy because he's like tall and like looks like the statuesque ideal of a cop. And they're like, oh, great. Yeah, this guy will look good on stand next to OJ.
He looks
and
like
it's just
a
a horrible
cop.
decision.
He looks like TV cop guy.
He looks like a TV cop, right? And they're like, he'll be a great witness. He should never have been there. Like, this didn't need to happen at all.
The LAPD did this, having full access to his personnel records
knowing
and knowing he's just like a
him.
PR fucking landmine. Like, nope, put him up there. We're going to step right on this motherfucker.
And knowing, because I know that your post to me might be like, oh, well, this wasn't how could they have known this wasn't a normal case? Because it was already the most famous case in the history of American law enforcement. Before
OJ Simpson
the trial
is
starts.
a massive celebrity.
He's a huge They knew this was going to be under an enormous amount of scrutiny, and they knew this guy's history, and it was like they had no excuse to make a decision that's stupid. It's really fucking stupid.
Impressive.
So I want to read a quote from the author of that New York Times Review of Books article quoting Peter Aranella, a professor of law at UCLA, critiquing the decision to have Fuhrman on the stand. If a person creates a fantasy life once, they are going to do it again, Professor Aranella said. There are only two plausible explanations for the prosecutor's decision, Professor Aranella speculated. One is that the prosecution was overwhelmed by the defense team's blizzard of motions. The other, he said, is that prosecutors had gotten away with using racist cops in other trials. What do we think it is? What do we think is the explanation here?
I think there's a very good chance, Robert, that the LAPD has been using a lot of racist cops in trials and getting away with it.
That's right.
Because
that's right.
The LAPD is racist as fuck.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. And you know who else? Nope.
Nobody. Nobody.
No. Here's ads. Fuck.
This is Jenny Garth from I Choose Me with Jenny Garth. You know, history is full of surprising little details. And laundry? Turns out it's got its own fascinating story too. Because not all detergents are created equal. Tide liquid laundry detergent isn't just clean, it's boosted clean. For cleaner, whiter, brighter, and fresher results compared to Tide Simply. And those stubborn stains that always seem to show up at the worst times? Tide tackles 100% of common stains for every load, every time. Now, if grease is your nemesis, think food spills, cooking splatters, Tide's got 10 times grease-fighting ingredients compared to bargain brands. And it works in a machine, in any water condition, on all your machine washable fabrics. It's no wonder Tide was America's #1 detergent in sales last year. So if it's gotta be clean and it's gotta be fresh, it's gotta be Tide. Shop now at your local retailer. Tide is a proud sponsor of the Elton John Impact Awards, honoring those who have helped shape a more inclusive and compassionate world with their artistry, advocacy, and unwavering commitment to equality. You won't want to miss the Elton John Impact Awards podcast, available on June 1st on the iHeartRadio app and everywhere podcasts are heard.
With my mom and dad living in Orange County, when we bring my 5 and 7-year-old to visit, we are sometimes in for a 2-hour drive that could feel like 10.
Oh, as an avid camper, I know all about this. We'll pack up the RV and know this is either going to be the trip of a lifetime or a complete disaster.
Which is why we load up the iPads with Lingo Kids before we even pull out of the driveway.
It's what dreams are made of. Lingo Kids keeps kids engaged and quiet with over 4,000 interactive games, songs, and shows that kids simply cannot get enough of.
You can pack whatever you think you'll need, but Lingo Kids is the only entertainment you'll need for a stress-free car ride.
Or really, any ride. Plane, train, hovercraft, whatever.
Download Lingo Kids for free today.
Or unlock even more amazing content with Lingo Kids Plus.
Choose the yearly plan and save up to 60%. Search Lingo Kids in the App Store or Google Play.
Lingo Kids. Everything kids love.
Combat sports fans, this January, it's the Bruise Cruise. Party with fighters. Watch a bare-knuckle fighting event live in the Caribbean. Plus DJs, bands, and chaos at sea. Prices increase soon. Hop aboard now. Go to bkfsea.com.
You ever get the feeling the city walls closing in, the concrete jungle suffocating your soul? You crave wide open spaces, the chance to connect with nature, maybe chase some elk, fish a private stream. Well, listen up. There's a whole world out there, and finding your own piece of it just got easier. Head over to land.com. They've got ranches, forests, mountains, you name it. Search by acreage, location, the kind of hunting or fishing you dream of. Land.com. It's where the adventure begins.
And we're back. So, back when he'd been cross-examined, Mark Fuhrman had testified that he had not made any anti-black racial slurs in the last decade. The recordings proved that that was a lie. Mark had to retire in shame from the LAPD in the wake of the trial. Obviously, OJ is acquitted, right? We all know that.
The glove don't fit,
and
you must acquit.
The glove didn't fit, they had to acquit, right?
Sorry.
And
he caught charges later on, but
he did.
It took a while.
He did, and Mark doesn't obviously. Mark's not the only reason, the glove doesn't gets OJ off, but he's part of why OJ gets off, and because he's perjured himself on the stand, he becomes the only person who actually gets convicted in the OJ Simpson case, which is really funny to me. There's a detective who shows up at his house Mark gets charged with perjury, and he pleads no contest in 1996. He receives a slap on the wrist before he and his family move to the small town of Sandpoint, Idaho, which at the time was famous because a bunch of Nazis and far-right apocalypse weirdos had moved into the area. There's like articles that are including like the Aryan nations and like Almost Heaven and Bo Greitz and like his fucking militia weirdos and Mark Fuhrman all in the same list of like reasons that Idaho's scary. It's really funny that he's like, it's like Mark Fuhrman is listed alongside all of the Nazis as like reasons that Idaho is a hub of the far right. It's really funny.
At least they all have the same hobbies. Like, you guys want to compare Nazi uniform collections?
There you go, collecting swastikas.
Yeah. Want to see my concerning German political cartoons?
Yeah. So Mark moves there, and there's articles about it, you know, and he, you know, is kind of settles into normal life. He's initially saying that I just want to be like a quiet, normal person. I found an article that describes him as having grown a mustache and started training to be an electrician's helper. I don't know why it specifies that he grew a mustache first, but it does.
That was what my face was for the Netflix viewers. I was like, why is that a thing?
Disguise.
So now that he's free, Mark's artistic bent reasserted itself. And with the fact that he's now getting to kind of indulge his creative side is helped by a fat advance from a publisher that wanted him to write a book on the trial. Everyone involved with the OJ Simpson trial got a book deal. If you were in any way involved and you wanted to get a bunch of money, you could write a book about the OJ Simpson trial. They were handing those out like fucking hotcakes. And Mark's was a bestseller. It does very well. I think he makes a lot of money off of it.
God damn you, Mark.
Yeah. In fact, it works well enough that he stops training to be an electrician, and he never winds up having to work a real job again. Instead, he settles into life in Sandpoint and continues writing. While Mark worked on his first book, the LAPD performed another in-depth analysis of his claims in the tapes. They did find that many were provably untrue. Per the LA Times, summarizing a few of these, Fuhrman and other officers tortured and beat 4 suspects' faces to just mush after a 1978 officer-involved shooting in East Los Angeles. Fuhrman and his partner rammed a suspect's vehicle during a pursuit April 24th, 1986, and struck and kicked him after he was apprehended. Fuhrman's partner named Tom tore up driver's licenses and used racist slurs. Police investigators identified the officer, but found the statements about him were unfounded. So, again, all those are things that, like, he claims to have done in the tapes that they found, that they said we proved he didn't do, right? Or we couldn't prove that he had done, right? However, per that article, investigators found that the department's handling of some of those incidents dating back 10 to 20 years does not hold up to the LAPD's current standards. In fact, investigators found the handling of some cases to be grossly deficient. So the LAPD says, we couldn't prove he did any of this. Also, our records keeping was really bad, and we, like, literally weren't taking notes at all about the complaints people made against officers. So who knows what happened is kind of what they say.
What if we told you he was lying, he was also a violent psycho, and institutionally we are incapable of doing our jobs?
Yeah, couldn't have done anything. And it's very interesting, too, because, like, if you read the news articles from the time, a lot of them are like, well, it turns out the Fuhrman tapes were all lies. The LAPD looked into it, and they were able to show it was all untrue. And that's not really what the report says. Some things were untrue, but a lot of things were like, well, we can't prove it because our records are shitty. And that's not the same as showing it didn't happen.
Yeah, we threw all the complaints out.
Yeah, that's very different, in fact.
We can't prove any of this happened because we made sure we couldn't.
Yes, yeah. That said, other important claims made in the tapes were true. As I've already gone into, men against women was real and documented by the LAPD. Sexual harassment was also found to be just as widespread as Mark claimed, and multiple witnesses have reported seeing Mark Fuhrman use racial slurs, just as he himself used them in the tapes. Mark's next book, published in 1998, was Murder in Greenwich. This covered a murder that we've discussed on this show in our RFK Jr. episodes, the 1975 unsolved murder of Martha Moxley. Now, Mark theorized that the killer was Michael Skakel, and a lot of people had previously. Michael was the nephew of Ethel Kennedy and childhood friend of RFK Jr., and there'd long been suspicion on behalf of Michael's brother and then Michael, but no one was ever able to prove anything. In the early 1990s, the Skakel family hired a PI firm to look into the risk to Michael and his brother Thomas, who were both publicly suspected of the crime. Per an article on Oxygen.com, and I'll talk about why I'm using Oxygen as a source in a little bit, the agency's highly confidential report was leaked to the press in 1995, and it revealed that both Michael and Tommy had lied to Greenwich police during their initial interviews 20 years earlier. One of the few people who has seen the report is former Los Angeles police detective and writer Mark Fuhrman, the author of Murder in Greenwich, Who Killed Martha Moxley. So I included Oxygen, not because it's a good source, because it shows how Mark's involvement in the case is used and reported on by them as like, he's the only one who's seen this secret report, you know? That he's become credible to these like reactionary, like paranoid conservative sources kind of now in this point in time. It's interesting.
He becomes a true crime guy.
Yeah.
He's perfect for it.
Yeah. Now,
and no reason to explain why he's a former LAPD detective.
Former. And RFK Jr. for himself, because he writes an article about Mark's book, and he blames writer Dominic Dunn for bringing Fuhrman into the matter. Dunn had been accusing the Skakel family of covering up the crime and trying to get the brothers prosecuted for years, right? And is kind of responsible for keeping suspicion on the Skakel brothers alive in the media during this time. And so he reaches out to Mark Fuhrman and furnishes him with like documents he's gathered during his own investigations and is like, I need you to like make this publicized because you're famous now. And despite Mark's perjury conviction after his book's success and due to the regret in the wake of OJ's acquittal, Mark had a lot of credibility in some circles, more than you'd expect. And he was seen by too many conservatives as a wronged truth teller and good cop. So Mark puts out this book that Dunn has basically paid him to write, arguing that Michael Skakel did this murder, and it does build a lot of support for that belief. In an article for The Atlantic in 2003, RFK Jr. would later claim, on July 10, 1988, 1 month after its publication, Connecticut authorities convened a one-man grand jury consisting of Judge George Timm. The state's attorney, Jonathan Benedict, took over the Moxley case and began a multi-million-dollar effort to convict Michael Skakel. Right? That's how RFK Jr. looks at it. That's not unfair. The question is whether or not Michael was guilty, right? If you believe Michael's guilty, then it's not bad that Mark did this. If Michael's innocent, then he destroyed an innocent man's life, right? Now, in 2002, Michael was convicted of the murder of Martha Moxley. And that same year, Mark's book was adapted for a TV movie, and Mark Fuhrman was played by Christopher Maloney. This may seem like a redemption arc for Mark, but it turns out the prosecution of Michael Skakel was dog shit, and it was later overturned. Michael spends like 10 years in prison, but he gets out because he's found it was bad. They didn't do a good job prosecuting him. Mark's going to go to his grave insisting Michael was guilty. I don't actually know who's guilty of this crime, so whether or not this goes in the bastard column depends on what you believe about Martha Moxley's murder. That said, I don't think Mark knows or cares who really did it. He writes in his book on her murder, in the intro, he's like, I was interested in Martha's murder because of, quote, money, power, celebrity, deceit, and corruption. Basically like, oh, because this is a famous family involved in this murder, I thought it was cool and sexy. And like a lady died. Like a girl died.
And they came to me to get publicity.
Like, come on, dude. Like if you really think this guy murdered her, sure, absolutely, do the right thing. But like, don't just write that. Oh, it's a sexy look, a girl got murdered. Man, come on.
It's just like true crime shit. Like he missed out on the wave of podcasts.
Yes, he would have made a lot of, and he does actually kind of he makes it into a little bit of that wave.
God damn it!
So Mark keeps writing over the next few years. He publishes a mix of books, a lot of like serial killer books. He publishes an expose of Oklahoma's death row. He's actually anti-death row, I think, kind of. He does publish a book on the death of Terry Schiavo, a brain-dead coma patient who was taken off of life support after This is a huge culture war moment, right? This poor woman is
Why the
in
fuck
a
is
coma,
he writing a book about Terry Schiavo?
Because he believes she was murdered.
What?
He thinks this is murder. Yes, exactly. A lot of people do. He's that kind of guy. In 2006, he puts out a book about the JFK assassination that honestly had nothing interesting to say. And in 2009, he hilariously wrote a book titled The Murder Business: How the Media Turns Crime into Entertainment and Subverts Justice. That's you, Mark. You're the media.
That's just an autobiography, Mark.
Yeah.
My favorite part of his JFK book is how he came to the conclusion is that JFK's head just did that.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's the
he was
last
never
sentence.
shot. His head just did that. It runs in the Kennedy family.
Yeah.
That's why RFK's face is so red all the time. He's fighting back the natural urge for the Kennedy's head to explode.
That's right. I mean, well, it's wrong because it was Bernie Montgomery Sanders, but we'll continue.
Sure.
We'll move right past that.
Agree to disagree.
Mark spends the aughts and teens as a forensic and crime scene expert for Fox News. He also hosts a radio show and a TV history show on the Fox Nation streaming platform. I don't think it still exists. It was like Fox's answer to Netflix in the aughts.
Yeah.
And Mark has like a show where he goes through famous crimes and talks about them as the great detective who got OJ acquitted. Mark
of course he ended up
advocate.
on Fox. He was destined for that job.
He was. And he becomes an activist in his old age, even though he actually in the early 2000s is permanently barred from ever being a law enforcement officer in California again. He becomes an advocate for police chokeholds because they keep people safe. The chokeholds are important. It's a critical tool for safety.
Hill to, I want to say
for other people to die on.
Yeah, a hill for other people to die on.
Yeah. He repeatedly denied the relevance of chokeholds in investigations to deaths in police custody. And I found a good example of this in a 2016 Raw Story article. Quote, while examining the history that led up to the OJ Simpson case, ESPN's 30 for 30 documentary series, OJ Made in America, recalled how the 1991 beating of Rodney King opened the nation's eyes to the LAPD's treatment of the black community. But Fuhrman, whose racist language is often blamed for derailing the case against Simpson, argued that King's beating could have been prevented if the chokehold procedure had not been banned in the early 1980s. If they could have choked him, that whole Rodney King beating wouldn't have been a problem. If only they would have gotten to choke him. They had to beat him because they couldn't choke him.
You see, if they simply didn't ban chokeholds, like 6 dudes wouldn't have to beat an unresisting person.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I wouldn't have stabbed him if you'd have let me shoot him,
Exactly.
Okay, man. And it's perhaps ironic, given his love of chokeholds, that Mark Fuhrman's end would come at the hands of throat cancer, which took him out of this world at age 74. Not a moment too soon, like a couple of days ago. And that's the Mark Fuhrman story. Like a couple of weeks ago by the time you hear this, but...
What a guy.
I kind of didn't expect to come out to the side of cancer on this one. But here I am.
Yeah.
I'm wearing my tumor jersey, big foam finger saying cancer #1.
Yeah, that's the fucked up thing about cancer is, especially when it comes for you or people you care about, it's this like relentless nightmare monster. But the other flip side of it is that it's the thing that guarantees no dictator or Fox News personality stays around forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the mortality version of Al Capone getting caught for tax cheating.
Right.
Eventually you get the tumors.
Eventually it'll get you. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, at least he's dead.
Yeah.
At least he's dead.
He's not on the Fox stream. He's dead like his streaming platform.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. Joe, you want to plug your pluggables at the end here?
Yeah. So I am the host of the Lions Led by Donkeys podcast. We're a military history podcast. We talk about all eras of history. We try to make things funny and interesting. I'm also the author of the book, The Highlands Burn. You can get it wherever you get your books. It's military gunpowder fantasy. So if you like World War I technology and magic, there's a book for you now.
Excellent. All right, everybody. Well, that's going to be it for us here at Behind the Bastards. And that's going to be us for it at Here podcast. I don't know why I'm doing the aphasia thing. Anyway, we're done. Go home. Be gone.
Behind the Bastards is a production of Cool Zone Media. For more from Cool Zone Media, visit our website, coolzonemedia.com, or check us out on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Full video episodes of Behind the Bastards are now streaming on Netflix, dropping every Tuesday and Thursday. Hit Remind Me on Netflix so you don't miss an episode. For clips and our older episode catalog, continue to subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@BehindTheBastards. We love about 40% of you, statistically speaking.
A BetterHelp ad. May is Mental Health Awareness Month. A reminder that whatever you're going through, you don't have to do it alone. Right now, most Americans are struggling. Nearly 2/3 report feeling anxious. More than half say financial stress is a major source. And even though 85% of people believe seeking support is important, many still don't take that step. That's where BetterHelp comes in. With BetterHelp, you can connect with a licensed therapist who's there with you to listen, understand, and support you on your terms. Schedule sessions conveniently via the app and talk to your therapist by video, phone, or live chat. BetterHelp matches you with a therapist who's with you through life's ups and downs. Because no journey should be alone. Sign up now and get 10% off at BetterHelp.com. That's BetterHelp.com.
With my mom and dad living in Orange County, when we bring my 5 and 7-year-old to visit, we are sometimes in for a 2-hour drive that could feel like 10.
Oh, as an avid camper, I know all about this. We'll pack up the RV and know this is either going to be the trip of a lifetime or a complete disaster.
Which is why we load up the iPads with Lingo Kids before we even pull out of the driveway.
It's what dreams are made of. Lingo Kids keeps kids engaged and quiet with over 4,000 interactive games, songs, and shows that kids simply cannot get enough of.
You can pack whatever you think you'll need, but Lingo Kids is the only entertainment you'll need for a stress-free car ride.
Or really, any ride. Plane, train, hovercraft, whatever.
Download Lingo Kids for free today.
Or unlock even more amazing content with Lingo Kids Plus.
Choose the yearly plan and save up to 60%. Search Lingo Kids in the App Store or Google Play.
Lingo Kids. Everything kids love.
This January, Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship takes over the ocean. The inaugural Bruce Cruise sails from Miami to the Bahamas aboard the Norwegian Jewel. 3 straight days with pool deck bare knuckle fights in the Caribbean, massive parties, beach events, DJs, cigars, tequila tastings, and non-stop action. The lineup reveals coming soon. Cabins are disappearing fast, and the prices won't stay this low. Reserve your spot with just $200 down at BKFSEA.com.
You ever get the feeling the city walls closing in, the concrete jungle suffocating your soul? You crave wide open spaces, the chance to connect with nature, maybe chase some elk, fish a private stream. Well, listen up. There's a whole world out there, and finding your own piece of it just got easier. Head over to land.com. They've got ranches, forest, mountains, you name it. Search by acreage, location, the kind of hunting or fishing you dream of. Land.com. It's where the adventure begins.
This is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed Human.